Hello again, Internet. Welcome back to another edition of Eric's Corner with the Word of the Not So Wise. I get to redo this video because 8 seconds into it, my phone did a software update. So that's fantastic. So today I'm going to talk about investing and how to potentially get you out of the rat race. Maybe this video will turn out better than the last one did anyway. But first thing I'm going to talk about is, there's lots of ways to invest money. There's stock market, there's flipping things. First thing I'm going to say, you have to do something. You have to have a side hustle. You need to start some kind of business to where you can write things off. I got buddies that oh, I bought a new truck. Oh, it's 40 grand, but it saved me 10 grand in taxes. So now this truck is now $30,000. Which would make no sense if you couldn't afford it, but they can. It's for business use. So start some kind of side hustle, get your grind on. Something else I'm going to talk about is stocks. My buddy asked me, this is a friend of mine since we were literally 6 years old. So 30 years, 31 years we've been friends, almost 32 years. He said, well, you have any advice on buying stock? And I was like, no. Then I proceeded to talk for 10 minutes about buying stock. And he's like, well, all that is advice. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought he was asking specifics like what to buy, blah, blah, blah. As far as what to buy, I can tell you total market index. Nobody beats the average except insider traders like Nancy Pelosi and your corrupt politicians who never face consequences for cheating the stock market. But you have to also, when you invest, look at percentages. If you invest $1,000 and, well, let's say 10 grand over a year, you make $1,000, 10%. That's a great investment. It takes you 10 years to make that. That's not so good. But your stock portfolio account with Charles Schwab. I had TD Ameritrade. Charles Schwab bought it. They'll have the YouTube how-to videos that'll be far better than anything I can tell you. How to short a stock, buy a stock, trade, put in alerts, all that good stuff that will have you very dialed in very quick. I watched like 10 minutes of it and boom, that told me all I needed to know. So instead of asking people, what does this mean? It'll tell you, and you go into definitions and they're kind of vague sometimes. Whereas you have a guru that's good with computers and knows the stock market. But people that have been trading and buying stocks for 70 years don't beat the market, the index average. So just throw your money in there and just let it ride and get a Roth IRA. The Roth, you don't pay taxes on it when you get it out or something. The Roth was better. That's what I have. I don't remember the difference between that and a traditional IRA, but whatever. You figure that out. So there's percentages, and then so also if you're flipping something, I've tried to flip cars, you kind of got to look at the margin, the return on investment, and then your time. If I buy a car and I say it needs a battery, let's just say I know it needs a battery, so I'm going to go, okay, I think I can make 15 grand off this. And somebody's like, well, I can do better than 10. It's like, well, I think I can. Maybe I only make 30. Now, after the hour it takes me to clean up the car, get registration, and title in my name and all that stuff. Okay, cool. If I make 3 grand, it takes me an hour of my time, and I'm only sitting on the car for a week or two. That's fantastic. But I need that margin to make the risk worth it. So if I invest 10 grand and they say, well, it needs an engine. Okay, if it's 4 grand in labor to replace that engine, I need that 4 grand on top after I replace that engine. I need that for my time. My time's not quite worth what a shop is because they have more overhead. Their hourly rates are like 140 an hour. Mine are realistically around 70 because I'm only paying me. I'm not, I don't have the shop, and well, I do, but I don't have the equipment and the overhead that they do, employees and health insurance and so forth. So I need that plus a return on my investment. So I need to be very sure of what it's going to cost me. And I need to know, okay, I put 10 grand in, 4 for an engine, 4 for my labor, another 2, hopefully I make 20 grand. And that's a 25% return on investment plus my time. If I spend 10 grand on a car and I put 100 hours into it and only make 3 grand, well, $30 an hour. Okay. That's not, oh shit. Did I just do that math right? Yeah. $30 an hour. That's not bad, but I got no return on investment, and only $30 an hour after putting up that initial investment really isn't worth it. So the auto shop, or if somebody comes to me and says, hey, fix this, okay, that's different. The shop I take things to is not buying the vehicle and assuming risk and then putting an engine in and then flipping it. I mean, you could argue that they're fronting for the $4,000 engine or the $6,000 transmission, but there's no risk. So that's not upfront cost for them, or I don't consider it, because they're going to hold your car until you pay. So it mitigates risk. So, you know, get your some kind of side hustle on, get some kind of business going so you start writing things off. They're not going to teach you these things in school because it's teaching you how to keep your tax money. The government hates that. I saw this video of this girl, Mike Knowles, did a reaction video to her, and she's like, my God, I'm working 60 hours a week, including my commute to work. I have no time to go to the gym or socialize or blah, blah, blah. Well, move, go someplace else. You know, you're not going to come out with a bullshit degree and move to a big city and make $200,000 a year. I don't know where you people think all these, you know, $100,000 a year jobs are coming from with your bogus degree, but they just simply do not exist. You know, make that be the lightning rod. You know, go get your grind on. You know, start some kind of business. We can't all drive for Uber, or all have Airbnbs, or drive for DoorDash and be an Amazon internet marketer or whatever. Cool. I mean, we're not all gonna be able to do something from your house, but find some way to pick up $100 a week. Like if I find something from work that is essentially garbage, okay, $100, boom. First person on Craigslist wants it, boom, shows up, takes it away, $100, $5,200 a year, and doesn't take any of my time. You know, even if it's worth more than that, I'd rather just talk to the first person, not have to have 30 people hit me up and offer me, you know, lowball prices. Just ask something low to begin with and just flip it, turn and burn. So, I mean, you might just have to work several jobs. I mean, you work for Walmart and you see the contractors coming in and they're doing some night work. Say, hey, can I come work for you for a few hours? They need you. Great. Do a good job. Now you're in construction. I was hoping my boss would come on and talk about how to get into construction and the real estate industry. By that, I don't mean selling houses, but like buying them and flipping them. He had some good thoughts, but he's not really much of a, you know, put his face on the internet kind of guy, which is fine. But my other buddy who I was talking about, oh yeah, and I was going to add some zeros. Yeah, sorry, this video isn't turning out as good as the last one. I'm already screwing it up, but whatever. I already did it once. I'm not doing it again. But he was always saying the first $100,000 is the hardest to make. And yes, that makes sense, but 10 grand is hard to make. To have that to set aside, to throw into something and let it sit and have it accrue interest. And it's easier to make if you get an account and have it transferred out. $10. I wish I'd have put $10 a month or $20 a month into my stocks for the last, well, I think 12 years or something. I mean, Micron, I only had 40 shares of it or some shit, but I would have had like 4,000 shares of it, and I would have bought on my way up and sold for $70 a share and bought shares at, you know, a few at $10 a share, $11 a share, because it slowly trickled up. But, and then there's, you know, he says the first 100,000 is the hardest to make. Well, if you're buying something like property, you spend 100 grand and in a year you sell and you make 10 grand. Again, that's a great investment. It took not too much of your physical time. You know, it took duration, but not your actual, it's passive versus you actually having to do a lot, which there is a lot to buying property. It's not that easy, but, I mean, if it took you 3 years, you made 30 grand. Again, that's great. But do you have that 100 grand to set aside for something like that? Well, probably not. And it's easier, like if he's done very good commercial fishing, so he gets back from commercial fishing and he might have 192, some years, $250,000 cash after it's all said and done. So having those lumps of cash to throw into other investments, and he bought property and has rental properties and has done all kinds of stuff. You know, some commercial fishermen just piss it away in the winter, but he's stayed very, very dialed in. And like I said, I'd like to have him on the show and he'll give you some big brotherly advice. So, and I think I covered everything. I didn't talk about Gary, crap, I don't remember his last name now. But he's really loud and obnoxious. I mean, he seems like a good guy, swears a lot, and he thinks it's his stick or whatever. But he's like, oh, well, of course I wasn't out partying, hanging out in my 20s. I mean, I worked every day. It's like, well, some of us need to sleep. We don't all have that natural crackhead energy. Like, I'm energetic. I've worked weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months straight, years straight before. I mean, I hate it, and I don't want to do it now. I have kids that I'd rather spend time with, but not all of us have that kind of energy. But I mean, he's not wrong. You got a stroke. You're going to have to work 2 jobs, and it's a worker's market. You can get into real estate, and you can make these investments. You can do this. You just can't expect this instant gratification. He's like, oh, I've been working 2 jobs for 6 months, and I still don't have all these things. Okay, well, it's only 6 months. You might have to do it for 5 years. Again, my buddy, when he graduated high school, he's a couple years ahead of me. I barely spoke to him for 4 or 5 years till he finally didn't have to work so hard in the winters. He'll tell you his story. But we have better opportunity up here because, we've got potentially lucrative commercial fishing. We've got the oil field, things where you work for 2 weeks, you come back and you can work on a house to flip or whatever, and you have that steady paycheck where the bank will loan you money. That's another thing too. I wasn't going to drag the military into this, but people in the military, oh, I bought this house, I lived in it for 4 years, and I sold and made 30 grand. It's like, well, no, you didn't. You paid 40 in interest. You lost a lot of money, and it wasn't worth your time. It was not worth the risk because the market easily could have gone the other way during that only 4 years. So, shit, I was going someplace else with this too. Oh, wow. This is the first time this happened. I've lost my train of thought this bad. See, I know other people that just got to make sure. Oh, okay, yeah, I know. You got to make sure to take all of your expenses into account. It's like, okay, that house that had a garage that wasn't making you money. I mean, a lot of businesses started out of garages. That wasn't making any extra income. So you didn't need that. You could have stayed in an apartment, not made that initial investment and that risk and that so forth. You're just not taking all these things into account. You'd have been far better off. Yeah, you got that lump sum of cash back. Yeah, that's fantastic. But you made way too high risk, and you really didn't make anything. You talk about flipping houses when somebody has cash to put into it. Let's say I have $500,000 into a house when I'm done renovating it. Okay, cool. I might sit on it for 2 years. Let's say it's empty and I don't rent it out. Okay, if I'm paying interest on it, okay, 30 grand in interest or more, let's say 40, and then say I make $100,000 off of it. Okay, 100,000 off of a $500,000 investment over 2 years. You're still at 20%. That's good, but you just paid 40 in interest, so that now you didn't make 20%. You only made 12 or 13%. Again, very high risk, and you put in a lot of work and labor into that house. Now, if you paid cash for it, once you get to that point, okay, cool. I had to sit on it for 3 years or 5 years. Maybe I rented it out to get a little money back out of it. But after 5 or 7 years, you're going to have to go do some more remodeling because renters screw things up. Maybe that's why you chose not to rent it out before. But you're not getting eaten up in that interest. And if you have 7 or 8, 9 of these projects and you're flipping a house every 6 months, okay, the interest isn't beating you up that bad. But, I buy a $200,000 place that needs to be fixed up. I need a couple $100,000 cash in order to put back into it also. So again, my boss had an interesting take on how you can get into the real estate market and shit. I don't remember if I said this already. Again, I just did this video. I was going to see if I could have him on. He's not really a go on the internet kind of guy, but he was going to talk about how you can get into the real estate market, even though it's high, and flip houses, not as a real estate agent, but get into flipping and building houses. Again, I'm kind of into it, doing construction. And that's something I'd like to do, is have rental properties. And he's paying me a good amount to teach me to do stuff. I knew how to do a lot of stuff already, but I never worked consistently at it. So yeah, recap, get your grind on, work an extra job, be pissed off, be frustrated, network, talk to people, look at your profit margins, take money straight out of your paycheck and put it someplace where you'll never see it. You don't have the info on it. start some kind of business, figure out how to keep your tax money. I said, if I make an extra $100 a week, that's great. But what if you could just not give away $100 a week in taxes? And then again, if you can put that in an account where you don't look at it or see it, even better. So if I can get 1 or 2 people that watch this and I can inspire you or hopefully give you a launch point to kind of get a better idea what you need to do, that's fantastic. I mean, I'd like to reach millions of people with this hopeful, even if it's not good advice, maybe I'll inspire you to have you go, oh, wait a minute. Don't go for that instant gratification. Oh, I worked 2 jobs for 6 months. I mean, who gives a shit? Do it for fucking 3 to 5 years. I got a buddy, my buddy from grade school, we turned 37 soon. And dude's been working every day for the last 7 years probably, or longer, 10 years or whatever. If he's not retired by 45, I don't know what to tell him. So yeah, I guess that's all I got for you. Thanks for joining me. Smash that subscribe button, spread the word. I'm trying real hard to give you big brotherly advice. I mean, I have parents that gave me this advice growing up, and a lot of y'all don't have parents that either give a shit or they're broke up and did so horribly in their lives. They don't have any idea on how to claw their way out of it. So let me know what you think. I hope I gave you some kind of good advice. Have a good rest of your weekend. Thanks for joining me.